Oh man, are you trying to pass that sick content that's coming out from Dungeons and Dragons this year?
Exactly.
Hello, welcome to the Tilted Roll podcast.
We're brought to you by Natural One RPG. I'm Francisco.
I'm Marshall, and welcome to a definitely not recorded the day before this comes out episode. Well, to be fair, I would have done a different episode today that wouldn't have been about this topic, but now it's a hot topic because it was announced today of this recording.
Not the store.
Which is now dated.
Yeah, it's not the store, or else we'll get sued for that one because it's trademarked. But yes, today exciting news came out. Totally just came out today. Was not leaked days before.
I didn't see anything, so actually, to be fair, it was a shock to me.
All right. Thanks, Amazon.
Good job. Amazon leaks everything.
Yeah, good job, Amazon. I hope you enjoy being rich and all. But yes, today.
For now. Andrew Yang is going to come for you if he's got his way.
Yeah, today, The Explorer's Guide to Wildemount was announced as the newest book coming out, the first new book of 2020 to come out for Wizards of the Coast.
And in March, too. It's going to come so soon.
And it is about, well, for people who don't know, Wildemount is the setting where the current Critical Role campaign, Season 2, is currently based in.
Yes, and you've brought the Season 1 campaign setting, not published by Wizards.
No, it is not, so probably why I didn't go with this one. But nonetheless.
But it's got Mr. Mercer on the back here, so you know what? At least his lovely face can already be seen in some type of print form.
It is. Oh man, and we both listened to the interview that Todd Kendrick, who is a absolute unit who will be my dad, who will one day be my dad. The interview he did with Matt Mercer about this whole thing. There's a lot of stuff inside this book.
There was seemingly a lot. In fact, so much so that apparently Wizards had to tell him, hey, maybe next time you put in a little less.
Right. Maybe save it for book 2.
Yeah. I do like that, though. One of the things, there's obviously a number of things that he has talked about already. There's plenty of things that we won't know until maybe it comes out. But one of the things he talked about that got me really excited, so you'll notice this is in the Explorer's Guide, and like what I thought of it to be similar to was Xanathar's Guide to Everything. The reason I thought these were really similar is that especially a long time ago, Wizards made like this poll or like tweet question where they're like, if you could do someone's guide to something, what would you want to see? And I'm sure this came up. So I think what I like, kind of what I feel like I'm seeing from this is that they may be going into somewhat of like a thematic kind of styling of certain books to like introduce a lot of things at once. Now, what's interesting about this, though, is obviously now this is going into Wildemount.
Yes.
So not a traditional D&D landscape, much like Ravnica was.
Right. I think they mentioned in the interview, too, how Wildemount and the entire world of Exandria will be the first world in a while that has not been owned by Wizards, as being introduced into the D&D canon. The last one was, I think they said Eberron.
Now, it's funny because they say... Well, that's the thing, that's the thing, right? They may be saying Eberron, which would inherently, I think, be the last one if they're not bringing in Ravnica to that. If they aren't counting Ravnica, then yes, I believe it would be Eberron because that was late 3.5 that it got introduced. But something about that is that now they are kind of claiming it to be canon, but like, what is that? I'm wondering what that inherently means for their canon properties, which is AL, right?
Yeah.
Because like AL is their canon universe. That's where they're like, the idea is everything that happens is essentially, part of the grander story. But like, what is this one's statement in that going to be? Are they going to do it like Ravnica, where they're going to kind of be like, nope, this doesn't go into AL. Nope. Or are they gonna, like, if they're claiming it to be part of D&D canon now, are they going to make that step?
Well,
or are they going to pull an Eberron and just make it like well, it's just like it's essentially like Critical Role, all Adventures League, like essentially, like what are they gonna do in that realm?
That would be super popular, and they did do a Ravnica AL, like a few adventures in for Ravnica. It didn't really take off.
You couldn't. Yeah, that's the thing, though. It's like, especially like the Eberron one may suffer the same fate.
Yeah,
and I think it's just because Wizards is kind of, it's because they're playing that coyly, though. I don't think they're understanding that like people don't want to do multiple things. Like they want to be all part of the one universe.
Mm-hmm.
So when they try to segregate them, they're never going to work. So I hope that if they try to include all of this stuff, that you won't kind of see that happen. But one of the things I really like that this book seemingly is going to do, that Xanathars does really well, is Xanathars has like the life event section, but not only that, like they have a bunch of other charts for like why maybe you picked a certain class, why you have a certain background, and I really like that. That's something that's one of my favorite things. I'm working on a video right now actually about a fun way of building characters with the life events table, where it's less in your control than maybe you think, which is actually kind of fun and a way to see the character develop. I would love if they created a tool like that for this new setting. Oh no, Marie. I got to ignore you for so long.
By the way, Marshall's Christmas gift finally came in the mail.
I really wanted to go the entire episode without acknowledging it.
I'm sorry.
Well, it fell, so I had to acknowledge it.
But yeah, so effectively we're getting a This Is Your Life 2.
Hopefully.
Wildemount Boogaloo.
I really hope it's as in depth as that gets, but like more, but has a little bit of spins to make it work in the world of Wildemount.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but I'm so excited. There's going to be descriptions about factions in the area. There's even little plot hooks to every location that he put in there.
Yeah, like he's going fully in depth to every class and how they exist. Obviously, there's also going to be subclasses and things like that, like he has mentioned.
And there's new spells, too.
Yes, and more importantly, even a new kind of spell class.
Yeah.
The Dunamancy.
Dunamancy.
So I watched a bit of a video. I don't know how much. I know it's played a little bit in some of the shows, a little bit, not in a very overt way, but its existence has kind of been there. And he's. I mean, Matt there has been spells made special for Critical Role in the past. One of which I've used once actually was a cantrip called Decompose.
Yeah.
When I was playing a Spores druid, so it made a lot of sense to have that spell. So an old DM of ours offered that one up. But he's brought in Dunamancy. Essentially, think of like, almost, it's kind of almost in a way like the worst description ever of it. It's kind of like Chronomancy and psionics combined. Like it has a lot to do with not only like time, space, but also gravity. Like gravity is apparently a big factor in it. Mareep, you were just restless today.
I believe he described one of the spells as being like a line spell if people around it don't make their saves, they all get pulled into the center and take, I guess, force damage.
Yeah, and then I guess like I wonder if because it seems like based on his description, if they're like stuck in it, then it's either maybe like an ally or your next turn may be able to then do another spell to all of those people within that. Man, you just wanted to escape.
He did.
It went right between the blades with its head popping out. I'm going to keep it there.
And there's another spell that effectively gives you a luck die. Essentially, you cast it, and for like an hour, you have the opportunity to use that luck, or that luck reroll.
Yeah, suck it, halflings.
Right? You're not the only ones that can get this. All we have to do is spend years studying and find this rare form of magic that's recently been discovered.
Or
what now?
There at least,
That's true. That? Yeah. Oh, but I also saw the video for the Echo Knight that he described, which really...
Okay, I didn't see that one.
It really excited me. I think it's a fighter subclass.
Sounds like one.
Right? But effectively, it is a warrior that's able to draw upon those doomed timelines from himself, bring one of his other selves with him as like a spectral form, and have it fight next to him.
So I'm wondering, I don't know, I'm wondering if part of their use of UA, like psionics in UA. I wonder. I've been wondering because like there have been so much psionic stuff going into UA recently.
True, yeah.
I was curious in the announcement of what Dunamancy was. I was like, is this like psionics? And a little bit, but not really. So I'm wondering if maybe this is related to that, or maybe they are planning some type of psionics book. Probably without the Mystic. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry, everybody.
Right, Mystic is probably never gonna come back.
That was too bad. It was a bad time for everybody.
Well, seeing how they changed their icon to that cool little gear thing, my hope is that after they release this book, we're gonna get an announcement for a new Planescape book. That's my like
in terms of like traveling the planes and whatnot.
Yeah, like the companion in Planescape. City of Sigil.
Yeah.
There's all those little districts for each.
Sigil. I mean, I've read the old Sigil stuff, and it's got a lot. It's a lot of interesting stuff. In fact, I once had plans of bringing you guys there during Shadows of an Empire.
Ooh.
That was partly though what drove me then to do something like Dark Matter, where I felt like I was concerned, where my concern with, or at least like that was where I was the first concerns about doing like a very homebrew like centric campaign, because of the fact that it's just like, I felt like I was getting like when I wanted to bring in these things like Sigil that I thought were really cool concepts, bringing them into the world seemed like very difficult because I would have to change everything.
True.
And what I actually meant to say was that was partly the reason I stopped doing Dark Matter, was because trying to micromanage every little detail to make sense in the sci-fi world was just becoming too annoying and become too much of the work rather than building a fun thing to do and a good story that actually made it flow. It's interesting though. Now we have homebrew coming to life.
I know,
in
right?
the world of canon.
I just want to spell. This book, let's see. When did Teltori... I'm going to look to see when the Teltori book came out. Came out, let's see, back in 2017. It's been 3 years now. And
it's essentially been it's around when this book came out, and this was November of 2017.
Yeah.
So,
and
pretty much just over 2 years since that book came out. And we haven't really had anything like this since then.
No, not really.
I'm really because a lot of people were hoping, even I especially, I was really hoping that Ravnica would be much like this. It was a bit of a letdown in terms of like how much you could utilize it, but I think it was just because I think it was a lot better if you knew what you were doing in terms of the world of like Magic and stuff, like Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And there were definitely plenty of things I really liked about it. But since it only had 2 subclasses, it made it hard to consistently use it outside of like if you were just doing stuff in a world of Ravnica.
True.
Because like there were really cool things like the EZ, like all of the EZ stuff was really cool. And like there, like I love the device, like the spell device. It's on like the cover and stuff. That thing is really cool and interesting. And I really wanted to use that with some wizard that was in UA for a while. The School of Invention wizard. There was a great combo if you use like the apparatus and the School of Invention. Just made it like the most wildly cantrippy class. It was great. But so I hope that there is a large number of subclasses in this book, because it does feel like if it doesn't kind of do that, it may suffer a similar fate. Because like Ravnica was a pretty big book, but I don't see a whole lot of people using it that often.
That's true.
And I kind of hope again, and that similarly again, they tried the stuff in AL, it flamed out. And I hope it doesn't meet the same fate, if you will.
You know what? They might update Bloodhunter in this book. Now that I think about it.
I was curious about that. I was actually very curious about that. He didn't mention it at all in the introduction one, if they were going to be putting Bloodhunter like in paper form, because it's existed in D&D Beyond in PDFs for a long time since he made it.
Yep.
But the PDFs didn't really mean much of anything. Now going on to D&D Beyond, that was something that was pretty interesting and unique, because it's like, oh, like wow, you can like it's on a D&D property, right? Like so like they're clearly like working together in a way. And that was really cool. And like even Gunslinger is on D&D Beyond as well. Apparently he at least got to retain that much of the rights to Gunslinger. I wonder if if he retained enough of it for it to show up in maybe in this book as well.
Yeah.
Like there could be 2 fighter subclasses for all we know.
That
could throw in gunslinger just for kicks. Although that gunslinger is very close to the way it existed in Pathfinder, and I very much believe that he just kind of took it because like the grit is a thing in Pathfinder Gunslinger and in his. I don't feel like that's a coincidence.
No, I mean the original Critical Role season did, like, they originally started in Pathfinder and then they converted over to D&D,
right? Okay,
and then they did the show. And
so I'm assuming that person was a gunslinger, and then they converted, and they were like, he was like, guys,
yeah, effectively,
I have a problem here. My class doesn't exist anymore. Pathfinder had a lot of classes, and yes. I'm sure 2nd edition will inevitably get there as well.
Some point. But yeah, no, I am super stoked for this new book.
Yeah, I'm also very interested. I'm really hoping for the best.
I do have to say though, shout out to our boy James Heck for doing work on this book. He did this book with Matt Mercer and a couple other people, but his name's on the cover too, and he's also doing Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. So he's going places.
Yeah, I mean, and so one of the things I guess this continues to beg the question of is now what maybe are some things we can expect going on into this year, because 2019, honestly, with all things considered, was pretty quiet. Last year we did a whole countdown of all the books,
right?
And that went out during the year, and probably could do that still. But I think going into this year, I think the question then really starts to become, that what is our kind of next level? Because I mean, one thing that I would like to note is, that there, the importance of Critical Role in terms of the growth of even D&D. This isn't just something where it's just oh wow, cool, the Wizards is respecting Critical Role. No, I feel I mean, yes, that's very true, but not in the way that I think that it initially sounds. It's not Wizards is being you may come to our graces. D&D's popularity largely exists today because of Critical Role. It honestly does. And I think Wizards is aware of that, because they went from 4th edition, a period of time where a lot of people felt, kind of betrayed, and they felt the game had changed for the worst, and it was too video gamey, it was too arcadey, it abandoned, and 3.5 was a tough spot for some people. A lot of people were still able to transition because it was very close. It was still closer to advanced and 2nd edition enough, but it was Wizards' first go at it. That's why they had to make a 3.5, because 3.0 was not great. And then they were like, here's a revised version of this edition. And now we're going to make a bunch of books around that one. And they just that's the other thing, is in 3.5, they just hammered books out. And even 4th edition, to an extent, they kind of hammered books out. Because remember, 4th edition only went from 2000. I mean, granted, I think 3.5 was 2004 to 2008 or so. Mm-hmm. And then 2008 to 2011. So seemingly they were doing pretty good in terms of time, but definitely after 4th edition hit, that interest level went down quite a bit. And obviously you can also benefit things like Stranger Things, and the Rick and Morty one stuff only happened later on. But so there's obviously been things to help popularize D&D, but Critical Role's part of that is nowhere to be understated. So the fact that it's also, I feel this is also Wizards understanding the impact that Critical Role has had on their brand. I think this goes way beyond that. I think that's why it's good that they also let him put too much in the book.
That's true. Yeah. Let's not forget that Critical Role has millions of listeners right now. They have a TV show, effectively. Yeah. On Amazon Prime, and they're pretty big now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why they left Geek and Sundry.
Yeah,
They just started on Geek and Sundry. Like, they were not independent in any way. That's why this book can't be brought to, Wizards, because Geek and Sundry owns it. Like, they own that book.
Oh, but
It just flops on you. So they had to use Wildemount, but obviously they would want to use Wildemount because it's current. It's something that they are in the processes of. So obviously you want to use Wildemount. But at the same time, it's like, they have to also then live with that limitation. But, Wizards at least giving the opportunity to be like, you have done so much for us. So if they do make this like really canon and they let this go into things like AL without, at least by the time the new season starts, without like limitations, like in terms of like, oh, you need a certificate, and other stuff like that, if they let this really exist as one of those +1 books, like every other one, that would be way more respect giving than just even giving them the book in the first place.
That's true. Unfortunately, though, in a realistic sense, I don't think they might not do it just because.
I don't see why they don't, but.
Yeah, I know. But to be fair, Eberron has been a popular setting for years now, and the most they got wasn't a separate AL campaign.
I feel like their reasoning for that, at least, is that like it's in the future. Like in terms of, it's like a time problem. If we let these exist at the same time, then we have like time plot holes or whatever. Like, I can see them making the excuse, and you know what? I can kind of let that go. But this one I don't feel like has that excuse to the same degree. Like, sure, Wildemount has inherently may have the ability for things like a gunslinger and stuff like that. But it's also not like the most, advanced gun system on the planet. Like if you think about things like what the artillerist brings, and other in-game based firearms, those things don't have the misfire scores that at least the misfire like rules that the gunslinger had that Matt Mercer introduced. He brought it back. He brought the guns back into the world where they are finicky. They break. They can be inaccurate, and many times they can have multiple, like a one can be not just be the auto miss. There's a risk in doing it, but there's also reward to the amount of power it can give and stuff like that. They're not very precise. They're almost all like shotguns. Like there is a level to it. And I think that's something that he has to be given at least that amount of credit for. But, you're right, because at the same time, they can just go full on Ravnica, where it's just like, here it is.
Stop.
Wasn't that fun?
Right.
It's not an AL, but isn't this fun?
Let's never talk about it ever again.
Yeah, it's a real shame because that had the potential to be a really great addition in terms of like adding a new real like a real setting that's not in the Forgotten Realms to this story, because like it's the idea of like, if you're gonna have this like world of grand adventure, then why are we like not only just sticking ourselves to one continent, but only even like a coast of the continent? Like, it's funny because like Sword Coast Adventures Guide is supposed to be like this distinctive like area, that just this one area, but yet that's where like everything in AL at least kind of is technically.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Like,
yeah.
And like, why in a game that you are attempting to like be so free and allow for creativity, are you then choosing to hamper yourself on that creativity, on the possibilities? Who, in the end, who really cares?
I think when it comes to the Forgotten Realms, there's still several like licensing issues when it comes to like if you go further east in the territory. I know some. Yeah,
but they have the opportunity to make new things there.
True.
If they wanted to, they could make the country to the east Ravnica. They could just throw that there, like, and they own that. They don't have to. There is nothing saying that they have to let those countries that used to maybe exist, like maybe they can't get the rights to Greyhawk, but like who, like in terms of name, but like that doesn't mean that they have to then just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. Just be like, those are lands that we do not know. Like, what do you mean? It's feet from you. Like, you all travel with, like, seemingly are able to travel hundreds of miles with no problem, and yet you can't go east. Like, it makes no sense. And I feel like they're hampering themselves due to limitations of possibility, but it's fantasy. Anything's possible. They can just make the changes as they need to. They have so much land that they can have things exist in.
True, yeah.
You know, like, why are they forcing their creativity to be limited by something that seems so superficial? You know, like, sure, the time one I can give an excuse for, right? I can be like, sure, Eberron is supposed to be the future. Forgotten Realms as a story takes place before the war, so I get it. If there's a whole war in the middle of these two stories, that's something you can't just be like, in terms of an actual story, like a concurrent story. But, like, Ravnica doesn't make any sense to me. Like, sure, it's a different world, but that doesn't mean it's not barred by time in any way. In fact, it's about, in terms of its technology, is about as equal to D&D as it always has been. That's how it's always been.
See, this is why I'm hoping that this year we get that the Spelljammer / Planescape book, and that somehow that's the new season, and that opens up all the worlds that have been introduced.
Yeah,
that's like my crack theory. This is my.
I've had that crack theory for a while.
Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. What if we got boats in space that lets us go to Eberron? And then afterwards, Ravnica. And then afterwards, my dad's closet where I used to hide all the time when I was a little kid. What if? Buy gold. But yeah, I'm hoping that they kind of do that. And then when that's available and they have those ships available, then they're like, oh, yeah, now you can just play AL in any of these worlds from all these adventures we've already made.
Yeah, I wish that too. Because I think that's the hardest argument for me to make with anybody who wants to get into AL, and it's that the more content they make, it's much harder to justify just +1 for books, and then the other thing, it's like half the books they ever come out with don't work. So you know, Wildemount comes out, everybody's excited, you know, Critical Role book, yeah, they say it's canon. Oh, but in this canon game type, it's not allowed. Cool, I guess. If
it makes you feel any better, in Eberron they just updated the player's guide, so now you can have Xanathar's Guide to Everything as your +1 as well.
You don't have to. It's not only Eberron and Player's Handbook.
Yep.
That's good.
And so for all you weebs out there wanting to be samurais in Eberron, there you go.
Yeah, it is done. Just don't go full Power Ranger samurai.
Right. Now we get common magical items.
Not that great. But yeah, I don't know. It's something that because like this, I think the story of this and the inclusion of stuff that's involved in Critical Role is so important. And honestly, like, I don't know. To me, it just feels like so much. It feels kind of just like a little bit of a kick, you know, like kick to the face. If you're just kind of like when you don't include these things into AL, and it makes it hard to justify because those people that are interested, but then all of a sudden feel like that their creativity is hampered because they can't do what they want. It's a turnoff, and like I get why they have limitations. I fully understand that, but the more they add, it makes it much harder to justify the amount of limitations that exist now. It's just, if it keeps growing, more and more people are going to want to do more things that are in all of these books, and you can't. So it's hard to really justify it, especially then once this one comes out, because now you've got people who are fans who want to play something. Like, I think it's harder to justify people that were Magic the Gathering fans and also D&D fans. Very easily, those could be the same people.
That's true.
Right? But there's definitely been a long-term line where there is not people who are in the same group, right? You know, like, for example, I was a part of that. I started D&D. I learned Magic. I played for like a couple years, and then I just kind of fell off. But I stuck with D&D. So I've been a D&D fan, but I really haven't stuck with Magic for a long period of time. So like to me, like when Ravnica came out, I was like, oh, maybe that could get me back into that. But because it had such little support, it really failed in that realm. I didn't get back into Magic at all because it lost me because I had nothing else to apply it to. The only thing I could do was when I was playing a Circle of Spores Druid, but that only lasted as long as that campaign group lasted. When that went under, I was SOL.
Very much.
So that part annoyed and I couldn't go to AL with that. So that part annoyed me, and that's going to annoy anybody else who wants to do the same thing now, because now you have Critical Role fans, and most Critical Role fans are also D&D fans, and that's a problem now, and you're not including them both.
Well, we'll see what happens. If nothing else, we now know at least one of the 3 books that will probably be released this year. There's usually a March release, a September release, and a November release. Whatever they released for September will probably be the new AL season.
Yeah, what I don't know is why is it March and then September? Like, bring that, like, because then November, then there's a 2 month, there's a 6 month difference to a 2 month difference. Like maybe just take that one and back it up a little bit. I think it's because it has to deal with December, but still.
January, February, March. They're about the same.
What?
Like, there's 5 months between November and March. Then March.
6 months, but then September and November is 2 months.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess
that was the part I was looking at. I was looking at within 1 year. I was just looking at the idea of 1 year.
Did Eberron come out in November or December?
November.
Yeah, you're right. You're
late November, but November.
Yeah.
So I mean, to be fair, they do try to fix that by going late November. Just to sneak into that holiday time, but then, and then to be fair, I think part of the reason that at least with a Descent into Avernus, because they did the Descent, like convention and like event, so and that coincided with each other. So to be fair, it was one of those things that like I guess have to do a September release, but I think it's what it has been. I don't think it's changed since.
That's true. I think they if they do another live event for this year, you want to go to it?
Depends where it is. Depends how much it's going to cost to go there. But absolutely, I would want to.
Right. Hey, Wizards. Chicago, Illinois is definitely not crime-ridden.
No.
Their Rosemont Convention Center is pretty big.
I look at this. This is my pitch to everybody. Go to Milwaukee. It is a growing environment. It has so many people moving to it, and there is plenty of different spaces to bring any size of convention to. Come here, for the love of God.
And for all you who are already in Milwaukee, good on you.
Come to Milwaukee.
Here's looking out for you.
It's cool. Don't come here in the winter. Then it sucks.
Yeah, well, that's Wisconsin for you.
Yeah. Well, it's the upper Midwest.
That's true, yeah.
Minnesota is also a gigantic pain in this time of year.
I think I scraped 4 centimeters off of ice off my windshield the other day.
Oh yeah, no, I had the because I warming up my car for a while. I had the situation where the ice sheet on the side windows, that was still solid, but it melted at least to the point to detach from the window. So it wasn't. If you wanted to, you probably could move it a little bit. So when I had to start striking it, it wouldn't just chip off because it would just try to shift instead as I would try to pluck at it. So I had to break part of it and then just peel it off the window instead of just scraping.
But
Winter, people.
Right. Hey, before we go, another thing that was announced recently, Pokemon DLC. Ooh,
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. The Isle armor and the
shout out to expansion passes.
Exactly. Oh man.
Something that probably is a lot easier to do on the Switch than it was the 3DS.
Yes, it was. You don't have to pay $60 for one of them. You only pay that if you want to pay for both.
Yes. So I feel like I saw a clickbaity thumbnail, which which is annoying because it was from Inside Gaming of all places. But it was like for $180. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And
I saw that too.
And if I had to guess, I am assuming that's if you didn't own the game. So you decided to buy both games, buy both expansion passes, so the Sword expansion pass and the Shield expansion pass, and that did come to $180.
You know, I think they might have been like the entire DLC $60 for both editions. Oh no, wait, the math is off.
$40.
Yeah,
it's $40 for one expansion pass. So for the Sword or Shield expansion pass.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I did pay that much. I already paid for it. To be honest, I did. I like
Pokemon.
Well, I do like Pokemon. Look at my hat.
Yeah, I know.
Celeste made it for me years ago.
Yeah,
and she like handmade it with what?
Before we go.
Get the Marie. Don't fall over and die, please. But yeah, shout out to
let my sheepy boys be together.
Yes,
Nintendo, I'm calling you out. Bring my sheepy boys together.
But good work on Mustard. Mustard's my favorite. Mustard can stay.
Well, Mustard's a person.
Yeah. And
Mustard doesn't go into your Pokédex.
And shout out to all those artists out there who did the thing within 2 hours of the announcement. Good on you.
All right, and that's it for today. Join us next week when we talk about
whatever.
We'll talk about, why don't we make the next episode D&D 2019 in review.
Or not.
See you later.
Bye.
Yeah. You can make mac and cheese and nobody can stop me.
Let's see here. We went to several fun conventions. We checked out Anime Magic for the first time.
Yeah, so that was a brand new convention that started this last year.
It's pretty quaint. It was nice.